Welcome to Directionally Correct, a People's Podcast with Cole and Scott. Today's guest, Stephanie Murphy, VP of People Experience at United Health Group and two-time guest.
Hey, Directionally Correct fans. If you're looking to stay connected to the podcast, make sure to subscribe to our Substack newsletter, watch our videos on YouTube, or listen to the podcast on your app of choice. This podcast is dedicated to you to help educate and entertain you on how to effectively do people analytics. We are a listener-supported podcast, so please consider becoming a patron. If you'd like to support the podcast by becoming a patron, you can find a link to sign up in the show notes or at patron.podbean.com/directionallycorrect. Thanks for being a listener. All opinions are our own and do not reflect those of any other organization. Is it working better now, Stephanie?
Ah, there he is. Hey, Cole.
Hey.
What's up? There you go.
All right.
All right, I've got everybody.
Is there a parakeet going on? You got a bird in the
I
house?
like birds.
My door is open. Should I close it? Would that be a distraction?
Well, you can close it, but I want to hear about these birds.
They built a nest on my porch, and I just don't have the guts to take it down.
Oh, these are wild birds.
Yes, these are not mine. No, they live on my porch, and every summer they come back to me.
Are you in a fairy tale? Do they sing to you and do you sing back with them?
When I first moved to Pflugerville, I tried to get my cable scheduled, and I lived on Craters of the Moon, Pflugerville, and everyone thought I lived in some random place, and they thought it was hilarious. They didn't think it was a real place. So maybe I am in Fairyville.
I can tell you, right after high school, I worked construction and built a gas station in Pflugerville, Texas, right? The main street right there. That's how I learned I did not want to build gas stations in Pflugerville, Texas.
It was one of the fastest growing cities in the U.S. in 2014.
Oh, you got something, Scott? I'm so thrown off.
Two-time guest. We need to get you a little robe or something. What's up? You were here in the early days. Yeah, I distinctly remember last time I talked to you on the podcast. I was at my folks' place, and Cole commented on how low I sat in my chair. He's like, "Why are you sitting like the fat guy from South Park?"
Well, it's funny. It does not feel like it was that long ago. But I was actually reflecting on this earlier. So, Stephanie, when you joined us the first time on the podcast, that was back when we were on the friends and family plan, of the cell phone. Nobody knew who we were, so we're like, all right, we're trying to do this. But I was thinking about it. I think I've had 3 jobs since then, and and I think Stephanie, you have had 1 or 2 different jobs since then. I'm not sure the number, and you now lead a major organization that didn't exist then, the Society of People Analytics, and we both are doing the SIOP LEC together. So, how things have changed.
Yes.
Have they not?
They have. I would like to say I have only had 2 major jobs in my career, Cole, so I do not hold a candle to your record.
It's not like anybody's trying, I'm competing against no one. What made you want to come back to the podcast? We were super excited to have you back. And I'll actually tell you this, because I probably haven't told you this before. One of the funniest things that happens to me fairly frequently, I don't know if it happens to you, Scott, is I'll be talking to someone and they'll say, "Oh yeah, do you know Stephanie Murphy?" Wow. It's like, they're like saying like how important and big a deal you are. And I'm like, yeah, I do. And then they don't believe me. And then I'm like, no, we went to school together. And so it's like this strange thing. I guess people just assume that, they're like, oh, Stephanie, woo.
Okay, first of all, I feel like you're implying I'm not a big deal when I am. Thank you.
I'm implying you are a big deal.
Yeah, no, but I have the same thing happen for you, Cole, all the time. It's like, oh, wait, the one that leads the podcast and all the different pieces. So it's the same. I think it's really cool that we've got some amazing LA techers doing great things.
All right, but you're still Stephanie from the block, right?
Stephanie from the Roy.
Yeah, it's been fun to see all the growth of all the folks in the program and Amy and everyone else. So it's been great.
How many tech grads do you think we've had on the podcast, Scott? Do you know? I don't know, maybe 4 or 5. I think at least.
We should have a big reunion someday. It's like we got nothing else going on.
That should be a podcast. Get all the LA techers on one podcast.
Honestly, we've tried multiple guests at a time. It's just a fucking disaster every time.
Yeah, it really is.
Three people talking over each other,
or not talking.
The opposite, no one talking. Yeah.
Well, he wouldn't have a problem with that group.
No, you wouldn't either. Now that I think about it. We were actually talking about this before we started recording. Is like a PhD program is such a weird time in your life because it's so small, like there's so few people and you didn't actually choose those people to be around and it's over such a long period of time with massive durations of time spent with them. It's just like it's not a natural experience that most people have, I guess, other than maybe in the military or something. It's very strange.
Yes, it's like you're forced to bond.
Mm.
Or
I
you're
don't
like,
know,
just
Cole. I
like,
don't know if I would have chose Scott to bond with.
well, I mean, who would? Who would really?
Well, that's why he and I bonded because we didn't actually overlap. It was like, oh, we can actually be friends.
Well, yeah, I don't know the personal history. All right, so it's
Yeah.
all good.
Oh,
I do like my earliest memory of Stephanie was she came to my like itty bitty little like closet office in Woodard, and just kind of sat there and like we were just like chit chatting, and like I don't remember about what, but yeah, she just kind of sat there and just kind of feeling me out or something.
I'm not really a social person, so it was probably me being socially awkward and trying to be nice.
Stephanie, the point I was trying to make earlier, I guess I made the opposite point. I didn't intend to, is I want to say how proud of you I am. Like, you have been doing so much good stuff over the last few years. Because again, I don't think a lot of it even existed last time you were on the podcast. And so, super glad to have you back. I think you're doing phenomenal work. The first thing I was hoping that maybe we could chat about before we talk about kind of what you're doing in your day job is just what's going on with SIOP and the Leading Edge Consortium and what's happening there? When is it? And why should people be excited about it?
Yeah, great question. So we are super excited to have one of the first. I think there was maybe one before this, but one of the first people analytics LECs, the leading edge consortiums, as a part of SIOP. So we've got some really exciting speakers. It is not meant to be a traditional people analytics conference. It's meant to be really bringing the science in a little bit more than what you might have seen in the past, but also keeping it fun and engaging and bringing in some of those key speakers that you might have seen in other places, but also some new voices that you might not have heard. So really excited to bring a bunch of amazing speakers together on different topics, from innovation and practice to academia and science to experimental and government. A variety. There's really something for everyone to really be able to hear and learn. And so it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, I noticed that I didn't get an invite, to speak, but so I mean, that's the way it is.
There was a strict advice from Cole that we could not invite you, Scott, and I have no idea why.
That is not true at all. Oh man. I swear to God, and you can ask Keith McNulty, who's leading the experimental one. I've brought your name up multiple times. Like, we need to be doing more with O&A. I swear, you bringing it up on the podcast is just killing me for some reason.
Side note, Scott, at some point, I would love to have a conversation with you on O&A and how much I don't like it.
Yeah. Okay, okay.
Well, let me toss out some of the names of people who are involved. So Stephanie and I both got asked by SIOP and the illustrious Alexis Fink to co-chair this conference, which I'm really, really excited about. I want to talk about some of the committee chairs. So for academia, we've got Fred Oswald and Sekou Burmese, both of which are previous guests on the podcast. For industry research, we've got Amit Mohindra and Misha Ann Martin, both of which are excellent in their own rights. For internal practice, we've got Craig Starbuck and Pat Caputo. Experimental and innovation is Keith McNulty and Ali Dmitriev. Government and nonprofits, we've got Kristen Sabo and Gloria Park. And for our pre-conference workshops, we've got Tunji Oki and Katie Jacobson Malekas. And so fantastic crew of people. Again, like Stephanie said, a lot of names you may have not have heard of, but a lot of names you will have heard of. And it's going to be highly scientific, no vendor presentations, extremely fun and engaging. And in my opinion, going to be the best people analytics conference that's ever happened. So I am super excited about it.
I see why I wasn't invited now. Yeah, that makes sense. Totally.
You're invited.
You are invited.
Everyone is invited.
Do you want to talk? I mean, we can try to make it happen.
I want to be invited to talk. Then I can just like turn it down.
Oh, we're gonna make it happen. We're gonna have a surprise Scott appearance.
I just want to make the playoffs, right? As I say.
You want to be chosen in PE class?
I would never be part of a group that would have me. Absolutely.
So it's going to be October 23rd and 24th in Atlanta at the Lowe's Midtown. And by the time this episode goes live, the registration should be open, so you guys should check it out.
How did y'all get involved in this? How'd this come about?
I mean, I can tell you like the real backstory is so Alexis, she chaired, so Saib did at LEC, I think 10 or 11 years ago, on talent analytics is what they call it at the time.
Yeah.
And her goal after that happened, it was a wild success. I was there. Stephanie, were you there when that one happened?
I wasn't.
It was like one of the best conferences I've ever been to, if not the best. And her goal was to do it every year. And so she worked for years to try to make that happen. And apparently it was supposed to start in 2020. And then obviously we all know what happened then. And so during that period of time, Alexis also ended up getting elected to be president of SIOP. And the pandemic, waited on. And of course, they plan these LECs kind of years in advance. And so they're finally getting around to it. And the hope is that this one is successful enough that they have it as an every year conference as a part of SIOP's LEC series and maybe its own kind of like standalone thing. So very exciting stuff. No pressure on me and Stephanie at all. None.
I mean, that's really cool because like PSYOP, obviously it's once a year and it's a little bit hit and miss, right? Like you go to the sessions and sometimes you're sold a bag of goods that isn't really there, right? You got various levels, but like these are like heavy hitters.
It's going to be really good. I just thought about it as like, okay, we've all been to a lot of conferences over time. 8 out of 10 presentations could do without. 2 out of 10 are pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, okay, what do the 2 and 10 have in common? And then can we make those the entirety of the lineup? And that's really been the thought process and the goal behind how we're organizing this conference. And the other thing I would say is we have intentionally made it so that there are 50% IO psychologists, 50% non-IO psychologists.
Mhm.
Make sure, because like one of the criticisms that SIOP gets is it's a very insular community. It's only open to IO psychologists. Nobody else is allowed. We have been very, very forward thinking to make sure that this is everybody in the whole people analytics community is welcome to come to this conference and that it will be relevant to them and that they will learn something. So I think it's going to be very exciting.
I haven't received an invite to the conference either, so just saying.
Well, they haven't gone out yet. So
okay. I thought I was being shafted again.
No,
second time. Okay,
not yet.
But really appreciate the innovation of PSYOP and being able to push the needle, though. I think instead of having to go out and try to create something new, I think PSYOP being willing to realize how many people were starting to identify as people analytics professionals and kind of figuring out there needs to be something different and allowing us to do this is fantastic.
Absolutely. Well, on a related note, Stephanie, another new thing that has come into existence, which I still get asked questions about it all the time, and I'm involved, is the Society for People Analytics. And I've intentionally not spoken about it on the podcast, waiting for you to join us because I wanted you to be able to kind of unveil what is this new thing. It seems to have caught on like wildfire, and it has gotten, I think, almost like 10,000 members or something like this globally. And so tell us a little bit about the Society for People Analytics, how it came to be, why was it necessary, and why now, and kind of like who's leading it and where it's going from here.
Yeah, really great question. And I'll give you the kind of not very elaborate way of how it came to be. I got my job at United Health Group in 2023 and started traveling back and forth. United Health Group is based in Minnesota. I'm in Austin, Texas. So started driving back and forth between Austin and Minnesota. And there was a couple times where I would go and I have friends of the field that live in Minnesota, like Dan Riley, Nick Garbus, Mark Hansen. So reached out to a few of them and was like, hey, while I'm in Minnesota, let's all, just go grab drinks and hang out. And one of Richard Rosno's posts, I kind of posted on there. I was like, oh, meeting with a couple of folks just to hang out or whatever in Minnesota. And Richard, in true Richard form, made a post about it, included it as like a meetup. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And so I ended up starting the Minnesota People Analytics meetup, even though I live in Austin. And so we had our first meetup. We had a huge turnout of people. And I started to realize how the community had been doing this for a while. We were such like in need for each other and wanting to share best practices and wanting to meet up. And everyone was just starting meetups. I mean, I literally was posting like just grabbing drinks with friends, and you get like 50 people and people analytics that show up to a restaurant in the middle of Minnesota, just like, yes, they want to meet with other people in the field as well. And so I just had this thought of like, we're all doing this in different ways in different spaces. Wouldn't it be great if we all aligned? At me starting the Minnesota People Analytics meetup, I had no idea where to start. Luckily, I had Mark Hansen and other folks that were willing to like say, hey, we can help sponsor and help kind of, shape some of it up. But not everyone has those connections. And so my thought process originally when founding the Society for People Analytics was, how do we create something a little consistent that allows people that want to go do this and do it in a way that they might not know how to start? They might not know where to find people. They might not know where to find community. How do we just kind of provide a list of local meetups, some best practices of what you can go do in these spaces? If you want to have vendors, how can we help support you do that? So it was really out of my own learning of starting the Minnesota one of like, there's a gap that we could fill here to help support people that want to do more. And the community is so hungry for it. And so we noticed this when we launched the Society for People Analytics in August last year. Within 2-3 months, we were at 5,000 members, and now we're at almost 9,000. So just the growth of the community and the wanting to share and willingness to be a part of something bigger is just something that people and those professionals really love. And I think a lot of it stems from the fact that there isn't like an industry, like so many other fields have like industries and degrees. And I think that not having that, having some forum where we can all talk and share those best practices has been really beneficial. And so that's grown over time from just more, and Cole, as leading our community chair, it's more than just the community piece now. We've now added pillars where there's awareness, betterment, and community. It's like, how do we draw more awareness to the field? How do we help contribute, have conversations about what we're doing? What is people analytics? We've got a panel coming up. I think that our May panel is focused on what is people analytics. So having these webinars and really just having the discussions and trying to figure out, what are the best practices and how do we share those?
You finally get the answer to your question, Scott. They're having a panel
Yeah.
just on people analytics to answer your question.
I was not going to bring that up. Did
What
you
is
say
your question?
What the fuck is people analytics? Like everyone has a different idea.
Everyone does.
Yeah.
Did you say you drive from Austin to Minnesota?
Oh, no, not drive. I go back and forth. Did I say drive?
I thought I heard drive, and I was like, wow. I mean, like I-35 runs both ways, but damn.
It does. You can drive it all through I-35, but no, I fly. Sometimes I use planes as commutes. I'll fly in the morning and fly bike in the afternoon.
Oh my gosh.
That's
Yeah.
insane.
I was just thinking like the reason why 50 people showed up to the meetup is Minnesota gets very cold in the wintertime and they need somewhere to go to huddle together for warmth like penguins.
Everyone, let's go to Chili's.
I will say I was there last month and I walked outside my hotel to go to the office and stepped in a foot of snow, and I walked back in and booked the flight and flew right out. It was miserable. I can't do it.
Oh man.
Have y'all ever lived up north?
I lived in Chicago for a little while. I mean, if you consider that north.
It gets cold in Chicago.
Yeah. It's not Minnesota tundra cold, but it is cold.
Yeah.
But have you, Scott?
Well, I mean, I live in Seattle, but it's definitely more temperate. I mean, it never really snows, but like once a year here. It's not that big of a deal. But like I hear people talk about like things sound different when you're outside. It's that cold. Just the way things sound is just different, and the way you can't go outside without your face burning, this sort of thing.
It doesn't sound desirable. I don't know if I want to find out how things sound.
I thought you lived in Minnesota, Minneapolis.
No, I lived in Chicago for a little bit, and then you talk to people in Minnesota, and it's like, oh yeah, it's got 30 below today, and I'm like, goodness gracious. In Chicago, it's just windy and there's a lot of snow, but it doesn't ever get really that cold.
I think this is where like it's like a common trope or something like that. But the guy in the basement with the trains, like, how do you develop a hobby like that? It's because like you got nothing but time on your hand, and I think Stephanie, you're helping these folks out. Now they can go to Applebee's and talk about people analytics instead.
They have a good time. They enjoy it. They have snow sports and all those other things. Now, granted, when it was like -13 earlier this year, everyone pretty much stayed inside.
I'm trying my best not to do a Minnesota accent. I want to do it so bad. I'm just gonna leave that one there.
Little Fargo.
Don't do it.
Fargo.
Oh man.
Well, I mean, the same's true in Texas as well. Like in Austin, you'll get up to like 115 every so often. Like you just stay
Yeah.
inside, you know.
You know, they say it's like dry heat though.
Yeah,
You know?
shit. Yeah, right.
I love the heat. I love Texas heat.
Yeah. Well, Stephanie, also I wanted to ask you about your new role. And I want to talk about this delicately, obviously, because your organization went through kind of a very traumatic thing that happened recently. I don't even know if I want to mention what it was, but everybody who's watched the news probably knows what happened with your CEO and everything. Um, as a person who's in the experience space, how did you navigate that as a professional, and what kind of role has crisis management played at the firm over the last few months, and if you're okay talking about it?
Yeah. So I'll answer your first question on my new role. And so this probably, Scott, it actually ties to your question on what is people analytics. I don't know if my role technically by definition would be considered people analytics. So just depends on what your definition is. I consider it people analytics, but I lead people listening and experience. So that's everything from our employee engagement surveys, all of our pulsing surveys that we do. We do a lot of focus groups and listening sessions, and we do a lot of passive listening. And so we combine all of those different insights and provide reports out to our senior leaders on all of the different, using all of our different listening mechanisms.
I'll
But
allow it. I'll allow it.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate it because it's a
It's
little,
people
thin
analytics.
line there, right? Technically, we merge those insights into a report, which is the analytics part. It's how I get away with it.
Can I tell you something funny there, Stephanie?
Yeah.
Because I literally wrote a book titled People Analytics, and the definition I used for people analytics in the book, as I said, it's whatever people who do people analytics say people analytics is.
Oh Lord. Good
That is such a
Lord.
cop out answer, but that's
That's an accurate definition right now, I feel. I feel it is. The way that I usually say is anybody that uses data to drive people decisions.
I think that's fair. That's fair.
because you
Which could
could
literally
argue
be
on this
anybody.
podcast, Scott, if you went with like some really hardcore definition, only one of the three people that are on right now do people analytics anymore. Yet I wrote a book on people analytics, and Stephanie leads or is the executive director of the Society of People Analytics. Yet neither of us technically do people analytics. And that's a really strange thing unless you take my definition, which is the best.
Well, it's what do you call it, tautology, right? Where it's like just kind of a
Circular.
circular definition.
Yeah.
Like when we were at SIOP, I threw out the idea that IO is a subset of people analytics, and if that got the groans from the crowd for whatever reason,
It did.
Oh my God, why would you say that?
why would I say it? Because it's true. It's true. I mean, because like my sub definition is IO is anything that involves psychological principles, applying psychology to the world of work to make people decisions. But I mean, like, tell me, you disagree that IO is not a subset of people analytics?
Oh, I don't disagree. I just wouldn't have said it out loud.
Oh, why? Why?
You gotta know your
It's
audience.
not my personality,
Yeah.
I would avoid the confrontation, but go ahead.
I don't think it's particularly that controversial. That's wild that y'all see it as that way.
No, it's more one of the weird things about, and this is why I try to avoid this stuff, is because there is a difference between what you do and who you are. And if people analytics or IO psychology are your identity, it's a lot different than if you just say, I do IO psychology or like things in my job. And so when people feel like you're poking their identity, sometimes they get a little prickly about it. And so I just like, you know what? I'm gonna let that sleeping dog lie.
Boy, like I still don't understand the ire of IO being like the inner circle of a Venn diagram of people analytics. But
Sky, would you say this is a true statement? I am an IO psychologist that does people analytics.
oh yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Interesting.
I mean, yeah. I mean, like I am in the people analytics bubble for sure, but I'm in the IO psychologist subset of that.
You know what's beautiful about having you on the podcast, Stephanie, is I feel like it's like a lot of times we have guests on, and like Scott and I don't like know them that well. And so it's always like it's sort of like get to know you at the same time as like, hey, let's talk about this stuff. But since we know you really well, it's just like, let's just fucking say what we're gonna say. And it's so great. I feel like I wish all of our episodes were like this.
I appreciate the conversation. You all are funny. Cole is not smart, but he's funny.
Yeah, your reference is something you were talking about yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah, insider. Sorry, something I forgot to reference when you asked me my question. That question about Society for People Analytics was that we do have our official board of directors, which is super awesome, which Cole is a part of. But Craig Starbuck is our president, and Heather Reitman is our vice president. And so we also have a research chair, membership chair, marketing chair, a program chair, community chair. So lots of fantastic big namers that have really been helping to support the work. And then we also have an advisory board that includes folks like Madhura Chakrabarti with Insights 222, Alexis Fink, and also Alec Levison. So just a lot of really cool folks. Al Amison's also on the board. So just a lot of big name people, analytics people, really getting together to help figure out how we shape this going forward. You know, as we mentioned, Cole, you mentioned it's a new society, and so we're still trying to shape it and figure a lot of pieces out. So wanted to make sure I added that in there.
Well, one thing I wanted to ask and just get other people to hear you say, because I know I've asked you about it personally, is if this group turns into the wild success that it could be, what does it look like and what is it doing 5 or 10 years from now? Right? Because like, I mean, I always compare things to SIOP just because we've all been involved in SIOP. And, you know, I think it's like 40, 50 years old, something like that. And so, but there was a point in time where I'm sure it was just like 20 people in a room trying to figure out what they were going to be doing. And I feel like sort of at that phase with the Society of People Analytics. So what does it look like 5 or 10 years from now? And what does good look like?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think if I think back to our pillars of awareness, betterment, and community, 5 years from now, that is still the hope is that is still what we're focusing on. Is how do we build awareness about the field, what the field is, how do we continue to have those conversations? I would also say the community. We continue to be a place where people can share best practices, people can connect with other people doing similar things, find partnerships with other, whether it be academics or practitioners, and start to find those bridges between what everyone is doing. And then betterment. How do we improve as a field? What does it look like? And so we've got Amit, who leads the education pillar, figuring out where are their courses in people analytics? Where are their programs? Do we need to increase? Do we need to decrease? What's the demand for it? So he's really looking into those pieces. And then Salvatore, Sal's looking into the research pieces. How do we get more science into some of the research that you're seeing in people analytics? And so maybe there ends up being a more formal kind of magazine or pamphlet of research that comes out of it. There's a whole bunch of different ideas. Mentor programs, lots of people reach out about mentorship. So you've got that's under Amit too, looking at mentorship programs and how to design those. And then Nachopia leading the program stuff, coming up with, do we have a mini conference? Do we not? Do we partner with other people to have conferences? What's the programs that we have? So there's just a ton of conversations about what this looks like. So I can't tell you for sure what 5 years may look like. I can tell you that there's a lot of great things in the works that will lead us in the right direction because we've got the right people in the right places to get it done.
Maybe we'll have a definition by then.
I doubt it. That's optimistic, Scott.
We'll have a tautology by then.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, sorry. I feel like I bounced all over the place. Cole, did you want me to go back to your question about my job?
Yeah, I did actually. I was like, well, we actually got derailed by what is people analytics. So tell us about UHG and what's going on there and why you're actually doing people analytics, not something else.
Yeah, for sure. So the role is the listening piece, but also the experience side. So the cool part that I like, and in my previous job at Dell, mainly focused on listening, some assessments and research and analytics too, but mostly listening. And so in my job at UHG, I'm able to take all the listening themes that we find, and then on the experience side, figure out how do we actually go translate that into action. It's always a frustration in the listening space that you don't see the actions happening, you're just listening. And so I get the cool benefit of having the experience side too, which includes content writers, UX design, service design, feedback, UX research, all these different pieces to then go drive the change that we're hearing from our people. So if you hear like one of the common ones everyone hears all the time is like career development is a top thing that pops up in surveys. Instead of just saying that's the theme we hear over and over again, on my side of my experience side of my team, I can say, okay, career development, let's go figure out how we solve for that. Let's go figure out what's broken. Where does the friction lie? How do we really drive the change? So it's super cool role. UHG is massive. For those, most people don't know, it is not just the insurance side with United Healthcare. We also have the Optum side, which is our healthcare kind of facility. We also have pharmacists. We have clinics all over the world. And so you've got a whole bunch of just like every industry in our 400,000 team members probably exists. We have a IT, we have consultants, we have finance, we have doctors, we have nurses, we have corporate. You just have literally every single industry in one company, which makes it super fascinating. But also the need to, when you're trying to listen, you have to have a bunch of different channels because you have to be able to reach so many different people. And so, to your question on the crisis that we had in December, one of the things that I appreciated that my team had in place, where we already started building those channels. We already were listening in many different ways. We didn't have to go launch a survey to figure out how our team members were doing. We already had the tools in place to really manage that. And so on a weekly basis, we were able to say, here's what's happening. Here's how our team members are feeling. Here's the grief that's happening. Here's how we can support. Here's what they're asking for. We already had such good mechanisms in place by the time the incident happened that we didn't have to go create anything that new. We could use the tools we already had to really keep a pulse on how our people were doing. And then how do we act on it? And so, one of the things that came up was our team members wanted talking points. So much was being said in the media, they just wanted like talking points about what, how to make sure they're saying the things that make sense and how to make sure that they're talking about the healthcare industry in the right way. So we designed a system that allows them to get talking points on a regular basis based on that feedback. I really think in terms of just crisis management in general, making sure that you already have your ear to the ground and have many ways to listen to your people allows you to not have to do a whole bunch more, but continue to use the channels you already put in place to really drive change.
That's fascinating. Let me ask you this, and this may seem out of left field, but we've had a few people on the podcast before that have talked about doing employee listening. Why is it not creepy to listen to people? Like, I guess the question I've always had, like the name itself has always been like, this is weird. Like, why, like, I know some people call it voice, some people just call it like survey research or stuff like that. But it seems like as the methods that are utilized get more and more kind of like invasive or like embedded into the way that people do work rather than them opting in to sharing their own responses. Why is it not creepy that we do this?
I think it's only creepy if you don't do anything about it. I don't think people mind as much if you're listening to them and you're changing and you're trying to make life better for them because you're listening. I think if you're listening, you're not doing anything, that's when it gets creepy. But from what I know, just being in the field of listening for way too long, I find that people don't mind you asking a whole bunch. Like there's survey fatigue thing I find to be bogus. You can ask 1,000 surveys if you wanted to, as long as you do something about it. People will keep talking to you. If people find that you're listening to them or you're reading, like, I don't know, their posts on the internal platforms or whatever, and that you're doing something about it, it feels less creepy than if they just find out that you're just listening just to listen.
Scott, you want to do some confusion matrix?
Let's do some confusion matrix.
The confusion matrix.
Stephanie, the choice is simple. We're going to do pick a number, 1 through 3. 1, 2, or 3. Pick a number.
2.
2. Oh, okay. Who is your glow up of the year? Who's had the biggest glow up over 2025?
Can we define what a glow up is?
Yeah, come on, y'all gotta like channel your inner Gen Z, Gen Alpha.
Well, and it's only May.
Oh, okay. Well, we can move on to the nerdery. I could.
Well, I mean, I would say, I actually don't know. I would say probably my child who grew like 5 inches in the last year.
My God.
I mean, that's pretty strong.
Yeah.
Is
He's
that
like
what
size
glow up
14
means?
shoe. He's massive. Got facial
Not
hair
really.
now. Glow up
He's
is
got
like when
facial hair. He's got
Right.
little girls coming around.
He's got girls coming around. It's like a macho thing. Muscles are starting to form in his arms. That's glow up, right?
How do you handle that as a mom? Like going from like your little baby like in the house to
Oh, he's absolutely still my little baby. I don't understand that question.
okay. Do you like protect him from like the little girls coming around?
Oh, it's okay. This isn't my kid. He's probably gonna be so mad at me. So he's had girlfriends since he was like in the 3rd grade. So the girlfriend being around is like nothing. Yeah, literally his first girlfriend was in the 3rd grade.
So she's the one swatting the other girls away then.
Right? Maybe she is still around.
Yeah. Do we have another one, Scott, or?
Well, I mean, you can pick another number. I don't know. Like I would say that Stephanie is probably my biggest glow of 2025, even though she says it's only May and we haven't had enough time to really do this. Like you're really coming up in the people analytics community. see you coming up on LinkedIn.
She is the people analytics community. You could argue.
What? That's a big statement, Cole.
You're executive director of the society called People Analytics. I mean, I feel like there's
It's true.
it's not that big of a
Good right
stretch.
there.
But Craig is the president, to be clear.
Who was elected by the executive board led by you.
Fair. He was nominated first.
Yeah. Sure. Well, I still want to know. I'm using context. I sincerely don't know what glow up means, so I'm just using my
Glow up,
context
like
clue.
you were down in the dumps, and now like you're at the top, baby.
Who's been down at the dumps? I don't know.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one. Granted,
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Are we like thinking like pop culture?
you can do whatever you want. I don't care. Just trying to make conversation, but obviously,
Okay, I've got one, and this is gonna be very controversial.
let's do it.
Nickelback. Okay.
Yes,
Say more.
I could see this.
So
Talk about a band that was not there. They were like the dregs for a long time, right?
So they were very popular early 2000s, and then somewhere around like let's say 2005, it became like a joke to say every piece of bad music sounds like Nickelback, and so they were just like people just dogged on them for so long, and then last year I watched this documentary about them, and I actually felt like super bad. Like I was like, oh my gosh, they like ruined their lives. Like how
Really?
bad like
I
and
didn't
what
know
they
that was a
did,
documentary.
and then they I had to look up the name. I can't remember what it's called, but you can find it, I'm sure, somewhere online. And then I watched it, and they just kept making music, and it was all like it was almost like this like triumph story of like now they have like their true fans, or like the true believers are still making new music, and I was like, good for them, like after being a punchline for literally almost 20 years, they're like out there living their best life finally. And for the thing is people who used to like talk bad about them are now like being like, you know what, Nickelback, they're actually a good band. And I was like, all right, good for you, Nickelback. So
There's
that's
something about
my glow up of 2025.
I think that is a fantastic glow up. I got to think that like 50% of Nickelback's resurgent success has to do with their Thanksgiving performance at Texas Stadium when the Cowboys played, I don't know, Washington Redskins or something like that.
I didn't
Do you
see
know what I'm talking about? Where they had the guy flying through the air? No one?
No.
Oh my God. This is great YouTube search, man.
We'll link a clip in the show notes for everybody.
Oh my God. Neither of you remember this.
No, I don't think I saw it.
Oh my God, it's glorious. So like they're singing on stage just like Thanksgiving, like every other band, but they have some guy on this like Cirque du Soleil like ribbons flying through the air while they're singing like "Take Me Higher,"
Isn't that Creed?
I don't know. Is it Creed? Maybe I'm talking
have
about
a different band. I think
never mind. Creed's my blowout then.
You really committed to that one too.
I did. They don't even know who the hell Nickelback is. Fuck those guys.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, Scott, who's your glow up? Who's your glow up in 2025?
I throw out Stephanie Murphy, but we'll see. We'll see if she can sustain that success through 2025.
Got this.
Okay, we're just the nerdery. The nerdery.
Yeah, where you want to go?
You want to do the Tale of Two Job Searches, if you don't mind, Scott?
This is from Caitlin Porter, Kristen Colin Lester, great friends of the pod. But they essentially did a meta-analysis of, reviewing how different job seekers use their networks to get new jobs. And what they found is that high-status job seekers use their network contacts to find quality employment, while low-status job seekers use their networks just to find employment, but not necessarily quality employment. So it's kind of a different sort of way that these two different groups interact with their social networks to gain future employment. Kind of a wild sort of way people find jobs.
So does it actually come, because I only got a chance to skim it, does it
Yeah.
actually come and tell the efficacy behind, people's ability to use informal job searching behaviors and like how effective that is?
Yeah, I think that's what you're getting at right there. It's like
Yeah.
how you actually like are trying to manifest your next career stuff. And there's probably all sorts of like moderators in there as well, right? Like the sort of jobs you had previously and like what you're trying to get after future. Like you could probably find your next job at, I don't know, Home Depot, somewhere like that. I'm talking about on the floor, not in the office. Yeah, you can use your contacts to find the next highest level job that you're looking for.
Interesting. I was telling someone the other day, I find that director plus, maybe it's just in people nowadays, director plus roles, I'd always tell them you're not going to get them unless you know someone.
Yeah,
Like once you get
exactly.
to a certain level, it's like it is only your network. It feels like I remember when I got laid off from Dell in 23, I definitely spent the first 3 months enjoying the pay and not looking. But after that, like actually starting to look for work, it was hard. And it was like even jobs I felt like were beneath me that I applied for, I would get no callbacks. And I think Cole, you and I talked about this. Like it was very humbling experience. Like almost to the point of like, do you know who I am? Like I'm pretty good, I promise. And it wasn't until I used my network that like in my role at UHG was created. There wasn't a people listening experience role before I took it. And so I think like using my network to get the role and then design a job for me was the only reason I probably got work. If I didn't use my network, I don't think I would have.
I'm Stephanie fucking Murphy, no doubt. It also makes sense. Like in the like a VP, executive role, like the whole existence is to influence, right? It makes those social connections. So like being able to leverage those to get the role is almost like a pre-qualifier.
Yeah. My riff on this would be is if you want to build up your ego, just source inbounds. So when people are reaching out to you and they think you're awesome and they want stuff from you and they want to do stuff with you, and that'll inflate your ego. If you want to deflate your ego, send outbounds. Say, I want stuff from you, or I need a job from you, or I want to partner with you, and you will get crushed. Just absolutely crushed. And it is a very humbling experience, of which I have plenty of experience doing. And sounds like Stephanie got to go through that as well, and it's no fun at all.
Job hunting sucks, right? Like it's a thing.
So invest in your networks, people. And that doesn't mean reach out to me or Stephanie. It does mean reach out to Scott because he
You
won't.
you
1,000%.
you can reach out. You can reach out.
Well, and the other thing I'll add to that though was like, and again, like do good work no matter where you are, because even like I didn't reach out to the person from UHG that reached out to me. They recognized my work from another company and they were like, hey, I remember when I worked here and you did this, this, and this. We could use your skill set here too. And so also it's like making sure you leave good reputations in the places you do work because you never know who might reach out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let me hit us with the next nerdery. Not really an article per se. It's just some interesting statistics. So I wanted to say thank you to Dirk Jonker and the Cruncher team because they published some research that just shows people analytics team sizes by the size of the organization. And I'd never seen anything published along these lines, so I thought it was fascinating. And so if you just look at, let's say, I'd say the sweet spot for companies that pretty much should for sure have a pretty developed people analytics team. If you have 20,000 employees and you don't have a developed people analytics team in 2025, you're behind, right? So if you just focus on them, only 30% of companies in the US with more than 20,000 employees have 10 plus people on their people analytics team. If you look at Europe, for that same group, only 25% of companies over 20,000 employees have 10 plus people. And if you look at Asia, it's only 17% of those companies. And when I look at kind of some of the major research that is published on people analytics teams and what you should do and how you should do them effectively, yada, 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 it seems like it's only focused on those large organizations. Like if you can't do people analytics, but if you actually add up these numbers, the number of teams that are just one person or two people or 3 to 5 people, regardless of whether you have 20,000 people or less, I mean, it's like a vast majority of people analytics teams, and there is no resources for them about how to do people analytics effectively at that size of organization. And so I wanted to get you guys' reactions to this. Like, you actually have some hard data on like who is the community, what are the size of these orgs, and how are they resourced? I don't know. How did you react to this?
I think it's amazing going around SIOP and just seeing all the small name companies. And like you've talked about this, Cole, like everyone is on the journey to people analytics. And like one of the things is just like foundational, like do we have data access? Do we have like the systems in place to actually make any sort of decisions, be it, say, a dashboard outside of IO psychology, in my opinion, Stephanie, uh, or like more sort of advanced, direct sort of inferences on, say, like, predicting attrition, what have you. But yeah, like a two-person organization, it depends on like how much you want to put into it and what you're going to get out of it. But it takes time and resources, clearly.
Yeah, I
I don't know
think
what
two
fucking point I just
things.
made there.
I think two things came to mind for me. I think I was at Unleashed this past week, and I was talking to some vendors in the expo, and there was just a wide range of really big ones to really small ones. But I also feel like it goes to show you the importance of having those small vendors. Like, not everyone can afford some of these really really big ones. Seeing the sizes of these teams, being able to have like smaller kind of HR tech companies is really critical. That are affordable for some of these small teams that want to be able to do more advanced analytics, but they are small and then need the capabilities. So even for the bigger companies, making sure they have solutions for smaller companies, it's more and more important than when you're looking at those numbers, that there's way more small teams than big ones. So how do we make sure that they have the technology they need to be supported? And the other thing that comes to mind is probably the sense of why we have such a need for community in this space. If you're a one person team, you need other people to be able to help and give feedback and best practices, because you're doing it on your own. I don't know how many times I've been in conversations with folks like, hey, just starting up this people analytics team from scratch on my own. Just do you have any, like, where do I even start? And so I think it just goes to show the need for community too.
I love what you just said there. Because like these tech companies do fill a void, right? That they fill a gap that, like, if you just have a couple of people, you cannot possibly do this sort of stuff. And I think Cole's on this tip as well.
Yeah. Well, I think about it in terms of, we always focus on, what are the biggest companies doing, or what's the most sophisticated thing that you can do. And I think there's a room for like what I might call like a best of the rest type of award that's missing,
Mm.
right? Like, who's really punching above their weight? How are you doing more with less? How are you still innovating with a lack of resources, or you've cobbled together just a little bit of technology and a little bit of this and a little bit of that and some chewing gum and some duct tape, and you made it happen. And I think if we invested in terms of having conversations about those organizations, it could go a long way. And so I don't know, that's something I've been thinking about, and I'm glad we got to talk about it.
Honestly, that's probably where the fun stuff really happens, where you have all the latitude in the world, because like you have limited resources and you got to be creative, as opposed to like, well, we'll hire 40 more people and like churn them out to increase our Cronbach alpha by 0.003, or whatever it is.
It gets to that point of diminishing returns.
Oh yeah, just
Yeah.
like small incremental advancements.
Well, Scott, do you want to talk about some psychotic like experiences?
Well, let's do some therapy. Why not? Why not?
What?
This is a very cathartic sort of episode. I've learned a lot.
All right.
This is a longitudinal relationship between internet addiction and psychotic like experiences among Chinese college students. It's from the Journal of Comprehensive Psychiatry. I don't know why I picked this out, but I thought it was kind of interesting.
But you did. So
I
we're
did.
talking about it.
This says a lot about you, Scott.
Does it? That's fantastic. So overall, like, internet addiction predicted psychotic life experiences a year later, particularly unusual thoughts and negative psychotic life experiences. So essentially, they say that internet addiction may be an independent risk factor for certain types of psychotic like experiences. Overall, there's like an epidemic of like social media abuse, right? And like you just see people like plugged in their phone. I'm not saying that it's going to be directly tied to it, but it's a warning factor.
I feel like the closest thing I have to this is, you ever like binge watched a show, like a whole season for like 13 hours in one day, and then by the end of it you feel really weird, and you're just
Yeah.
like, wow, I probably shouldn't have done that. I feel like that's kind of borderline what they're saying here with internet addiction. And if you just imagine doing that day after day after day with just internet, and eventually, yeah, you're probably gonna like break a little bit, I would imagine.
Well, you come out like a TikTok rabbit hole, like you've been going for like 3 straight hours. Kind of get that same sort of thing.
I can see that. I binge watched all of the Breaking Bad seasons during my internship at Dell. I somehow still got the job.
but it did leave you feeling a little weird. Especially that type of show, like just been watching it constantly, like when they're like, boiling bodies in acid and stuff, like, and then going to work the next day. I feel like I was a little bit in a twilight zone.
The end of season 1. Yeah, that last episode of season 1 is like, all right, here we go. No spoilers for a show that's 25, 15 years old, whatever it is.
Right, no spoilers, but there could be a correlation there somewhere.
But it's probably a reciprocal relationship too. Like the people that are addicted to the internet may be just more prone to psychotic like experiences too.
Oh, so you think there's some like reverse causality there?
Yeah, and actually, like the betas on this is relatively weak. But I mean, like it's small effect here. A year later, just enough to get published, I expect. But
Yeah, I guess you would need like some kind of base rate of how many psychotic like experiences you would expect in like the normal population, and then compare internet addicted people against the base rate. And is it just like overrepresented in people who were already gonna have psychotic experiences? I don't know.
yeah, there's other issues with
Like
the
a pre-post, like give them some type of assessment in the beginning, and then over time as they go through their lives, like maybe like a year later, give them another one and see like if it's shifted or changed.
In fairness, that's exactly what they did. It's over a year-long study. But it wasn't a differences the way you're describing. Just like a straight beta. So I guess just regression coefficient.
Well, Stephanie, it's been fantastic having you back on for the second time. Any any feedback for us?
We need a reviewer comment card.
Yeah.
I would like to review this before it posts. I feel like we've been having a conversation and I don't really know all that I would said. And so I want to make sure that I didn't say anything off the wall. But it has been really good. I feel like it's been real casual. So I do appreciate the conversation and the fun articles and things that you all brought up. So it's been fun.
Great to see you. Great to see you, Stephanie. You are my glow up of 2025.
I will accept that. I'll try to hold up to it
Yes.
the year continues.
You've been listening to Directionally Correct, a People Analytics podcast with Cole and Scott. And today's guest, glow up of 2025, Stephanie Murphy, VP of Experience at United Health Group and founder and executive director of the Society for People Analytics and the co-chair of the SIOP Leading Edge Consortium. That is the longest sign off I've ever done. Thanks for joining us, Stephanie.
Thanks for having me.